Hi everyone, this is the word art for the back cover of the book that we're writing, the collage of words. Today we're doing like this, there needs to be like, there's like a longer section, so it's not just like one page, it's going to be two pages next to each other that are kind of connected. So instead of like trying to have like a longer piece or tape it together or get something where we have like one long board, I'm just gonna do today's lesson was my great privilege service, and the big message I felt like in that lesson was to give God your no and your nothing. As I'm just talking to the Lord about it, it's like I think on one page I'm going to put no, and then I'm going to put like half of a plus sign, and then on the other page I'm going to put the other half of the plus sign, and then nothing, and then no plus nothing, to give to God. And have that be like you'll see it at the end of this video. I'll put them together and you can see it at the top above the link to the, so at the very end you'll see the final piece together, and we'll just say no plus nothing, and that'll be our artwork for the word art. So we'll do the plus symbol. Do the plus symbol on this. I should have measured it somehow. I don't really have anything around that I can use to measure. It's probably fine. We'll figure it out. All right. It's such a funny thing too, like to think about like this whole concept of giving God your no and your nothing. Like the reality is you don't have anything to offer God, right? Like but your life, because all of the ability and all of the skill and all of the talent and all of that, everything that we have comes from the Lord. Our breath God gives us every day, So in that way, we really don't have anything to give him. He has to give us things so that we can give those things back to him through obedience. So I think it's funny if we ever think that we're like, oh, I've got something to give the Lord. Because no, you really don't. Nothing that's your own, nothing that he hasn't already given you. He created you. So basically you're just offering him back what he's already given you. But giving him your no and your nothing is kind of like that acknowledgement that he, everything that you have or think that you have or think that you don't have, it's all come from him anyway. So anything that you don't have, he's very well and able to pour through you, meet you where you're unable. And if he asks you and calls you to do something, he's going to enable you to do it. And you just have to be excellent in it, not seeking perfection in it, but seeking to be excellent and do it with your best ability. To do it with all your might and to do it with everything you're able to do. Let God flow through you. That's the whole purpose of this curriculum, right? Is to teach you what God's taught me of just being empty. I'm already empty. I have nothing to offer God. I don't even want to do these things, but God has to pour that desire in me, and God has to give me his desires in my heart, and all of that. Books will just, the books are just, at this point, 57 books have been published. There's only a few more, I have 43 more to, there's almost 64. So it's just like, at this point, it's just flowing. And it's just because I'm just to the point of just like, God, you have to do it. So here's the no part. And then on the other side, I can just bend it over maybe. Let's see if you can see this on camera. If I bend it over like that, I can get the correct dimensions for the other side of our... Look at that. I feel like a little kid. symbol. All right. On this side, we're doing nothing. As we horribly run out of room. All right, let's try that again. All right, nothing. And I didn't color the other side yet. I think, I'm not sure how I'm gonna do that. Because the paint has to, the markers have to dry, and they dry like very kind of slowly. We'll figure it out. All the time, God tells me, he's like, what you're doing has nothing to do with you, and I'm always like, yay. Like, that takes the pressure off of me. You know, it's not about me, it's about serving God and doing what he's asked me to do. It's more about just my obedience than it is about like what I'm doing. A lot of the things I've done has just been about obeying him, less about like the actual thing, but more about just God's like testing me, like, are you willing to do anything I ask you to do? Are you going to do this thing I've asked you to do, even though you have no understanding? You may never know why I'm asking you to do it. Are you still going to do it? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to be obedient, Lord, even without any understanding of what this is doing. A lot of times later, I'll get to see the fruit of the obedience, but more often than not, I don't. And that G just kind of like slammed on that side of the page, but that's fine. It's like the no gets like all this room and nothing has just like cramped in there. You know what? I'm doing pretty well now for waking up with nothing. I woke up and I was like, oh God, I'm so grateful that I'm alive. So grateful for all this. God's like, thanks for being grateful. It really changes your attitude though when you're grateful. Like, Lord, thank you. Thank you, God, that I'm doing these curriculum videos. Thank you, God, that I can be obedient to you, Lord, even though I don't feel like it. Thank you, God, that you've given me food on the table, bed to sleep in. Lord, here's my nothing, God. You have to do something with it today. God's like, well, get in there and start praying. Get in there and start speaking. Get in there and start doing what I'm told you to do, and I'll meet you there. And I'm like, okay, see you there. And he does. He's like, oh, here I am. I'm already here. This is concept of like, I am, because of what God's calling me to do, it's like, I was overwhelmed this morning too with all that's coming, and I don't have answers to a lot of the pieces of it. God's like, will you just focus on today? And I'm like, but that's so hard. And he's like, just focus on doing what I've asked you to do today. Like, why is that so difficult for you to just focus on today? And it's so hard for us, right? We just want to know that we have safety and security in the future. And God's like, come on, just focus on what I've given you to do today. I've given you grace for today. Like, that's the extent I've given you grace. Tomorrow I will give you grace for tomorrow. Today I'm giving you grace for today. And when you live life in today, you have all you need. God's given me everything I need for this moment right here. I don't need grace for tomorrow because I'm not living in tomorrow. I'm living in today, in this moment. And God's given me grace for right this moment. So, but learning that is really difficult to live in today. So funny that God is big enough for us to give him our no and nothing. And he takes that no and nothing and transforms it into something amazing. He's like, I can work with nothing. I worked with nothing. That's all I've been working with. And he created me out of nothing, created you out of nothing. Oh. I gotta turn the page over, so I don't want to like it. Gotta let that dry for a second, so I'm gonna take a drink of my tea. Oh. Good enough. Poor G. Don't worry, G, I'm going to give you some color. You're not going to be forgotten. I know you're really tiny. It's funny that I'm also just supposed to use these markers too, so I'm really having to like figure out how to use this to draw every day. So it's like, I think at this point it's just like, I'm gonna just make the best of what we've got with this art style. Because it's got its own little font and its own little, all the art kind of looks like it's created by the same person, and it's kind of simple and flowing together and has purpose and symbolism and meaning, and it's about the obedience of it all, right? Like the Lord, you asked me to do this, so here I am doing this. There's that Russian girl or whatever, she's Ukrainian, or the one that like draws the really, God took her to heaven and teaching her to paint, and she paints like the portrait, Prince of Peace. It's like a portrait of Jesus. Like, Lord, why can't you take me to heaven and teach me how to do art? Anyway, so no and nothing. So you'll see very shortly, it'll be on the thing and you can see it together. So yeah, thanks for watching.